Well, it's Thursday, and you know what that means. Damon's on another vacation. Welcome back to the AZ Wildcats podcast. Happy Thursday. My name is Kevin Thomas. I will be your host for today because our usual co-host, Damon Dog, is MIA yet again. The dog has run away from home. We've posted up the posters. We've, called our neighbors. We're going to try to find Damon Dog and bring him back home. Gary, come home. Damon, come home. You guys understand the meme here. That's your verbal meme for the day. Just a minute into the show. Because, we're not trying to waste any time today, folks. We have a very special guest. It is the one, the only friend of the show, Justin Spears. How are we doing today, Justin?
What's up, fellas? Hey, you know what? Damon is a dog, and every dog always find their way home. They always come home. So Dame eventually will come home. But, yeah, man, excited to be on the podcast. We've got training camp in less than a week. It's officially football season, guys. Super exciting.
It is that time of year where you're so far yet so close to the sports in which you love most. You know what I mean? Basketball is around that second corner. Football is you can see it. It's down the block. You've walked all this way, and now you can finally see your destination. And you're right. We are just mere weeks away from football kicking off here, Justin. But before we get to that, we do have some Arizona news and notes that I wanted to hit you with at the top of today's show. Nick Foles and Channing Frye have been inducted into the Arizona Hall of Fame. Damon and I talked about it the last couple of days, respectively, with Nick Foles on Tuesday, Channing Frye yesterday. But we haven't gotten your take on it, Justin. How important were those two to Arizona, and just how much of a layup were these two inductions, right?
Oh, layup is one way of putting it, Kevin. I mean, the easiest choice you can make for the U of A Sports Hall of Fame, especially with a guy like Nick Foles, right? Like we were talking about on the radio show this week. If you were to tell us, 20 years ago, okay, at some point, Arizona's either going to have a Rose Bowl or a Super Bowl MVP, and that Super Bowl MVP is a quarterback. Which one are you banking on? I would put all my money on the Rose Bowl, right? Like, no, Arizona's not going to have a quarterback be the Super Bowl MVP. Get out of here. Well, Nick Foles, he became that and was a great quarterback at Arizona and had a great NFL career. Very interesting pro career, which I'll talk about here in a second. But, yeah, Nick Foles, this was a guy who went to the same high school as Drew Brees, set all of his records at Westlake High School in Austin, and then ended up signing with Michigan State out of college. And this was when Michigan State had Kirk Cousins and Brian Hoyer, like a very stacked quarterback room. And then he transfers briefly to ASU, I think it was, and then came down to Tucson. And when he got to Arizona, he was in competition at quarterback with Matt Scott. And those two guys were competing for the starting quarterback job after four-year starter Willie Tuitama had left. So some big shoes to fill, right? Willie Tuitama is one of the top passers in program history, got Arizona to the Las Vegas Bowl, ending their 10-year postseason drought. And Matt Scott ended up winning the job. And it wasn't really a surprise because we saw Matt Scott come in as a backup under Willie Tuitama. And so him getting the starting gig, between his passing, between his mobility as a quarterback, it wasn't a surprise that Matt Scott won it. And then when Arizona went on the road and played against Iowa, they were kind of, getting handled a little bit. And then they decided to put Nick Foles in the second half. And Nick Foles kind of gave them some juice a little bit. And then Mike Stoops made the decision, all right, we're going to start Nick Foles against Oregon State, which I think was the Pac-12 opener at the time. And they go on the road and they beat Oregon State in Corvallis with Nick Foles as the starter. And then the rest is history. He is the starter. He's a starter for the remainder of the season. And if freaking Rob Gronkowski had a healthy back and was available for Nick Foles to throw to, who knows what would have happened? I mean, they were right there. And one win away. All they had to do was beat Oregon on national TV with College Game Day in town. If they would have done that, then they would have controlled their destiny and would have gone to that Rose Bowl, which would have been one magical season for Arizona. But the fact that Nick Foles was a quarterback and was so productive, and Arizona was winning football games, and you really felt like, okay, Mike Stoops has the program to really where he wants it to be. And they had great offensive players, great players on both sides of the ball, but Nick Foles was one of those big names that was just so great at Arizona. And what's so crazy is, we consider Nick Foles the greatest quarterback of all time at Arizona. I do. I mean, he's got the most passing yards, he's got the most touchdowns, but he never really had like that postseason moment that a lot of great quarterbacks had at Arizona, right? Like Noah Fafita can look at that 2023 Alamo Bowl. You look at Ortiz Jenkins and Keith Smith out there in the late 90s. So some of the best, Willie Tuitama ending the postseason drought. Those guys had great postseason moments. Nick Foles, they got killed by Nebraska in the 2009 Holiday Bowl. I mean, Ndamukong Suh, I saw that man get triple teamed and still find his way in the backfield and sack Nick Foles. He was just a man amongst boys. And then the next year, they played against 40-year-old quarterback Brandon Weeden. I'm kidding. He wasn't 40. He was more like 27. But still, a 27-year-old quarterback at the college level is pretty insane. And he was throwing to Justin Blackman, and Oklahoma State just routed Arizona. And so the postseason success wasn't there, but Nick Foles was a great quarterback at the U of A. And, I know you guys had the what if episode last week. I always talk about the Rob Gronkowski, Nick Foles what if. But, man, great quarterback, and then ended up going to the NFL. I didn't know really what to expect out of Nick Foles as an NFL quarterback, but that 2013 season with the Eagles where he had 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, it's like, whoa, this guy is going to be sticking around for a while. But then, he got injured, kind of really became like a journeyman backup. And it looked like Nick Foles' time in the NFL was coming to an end when he was playing with the Chiefs and the Rams, and then got another opportunity with the Philadelphia Eagles. And you hate to see an injury happen, right? But Carson Wentz goes down. Eagles are built to go to the Super Bowl. And then Nick Foles comes in and leads them to victory. They go to a Super Bowl and had one of the most iconic plays in Super Bowl history in the Philly special against the New England Patriots. So, yeah, man, great career, very unique career. And so Nick Foles, shout out to you being one of the best to ever do it at the University of Arizona. And then for Channing Frye, he was with Arizona basketball at a very special time for me. That was when I really started to watch the Wildcats. That 2001 season was really that first season that I watched Arizona basketball. And then it started to get into more of like the Luke Walton and the Jason Gardner era. But there was something about that 2004-05 Elite Eight team with Salim Stoudemire and Channing Frye as the two upperclassmen leading the way. And I'll never forget, I think it was in the Elite Eight game against Illinois, where Channing Frye takes a pass at the top of the key and he knocks down a three-pointer. And that was like the first time I had ever seen him attempt or make a three-pointer. And then he made it. And I was like, whoa, Channing Frye, where was that all year long? You don't shoot three-pointers. And then lo and behold, a few years later, he's in the three-point contest. And when you think about like the evolution of basketball and front court players becoming more skilled and having that range, Channing Frye was really like one of the first like stretch fives in that 2000s era. And, you didn't have this super illustrious NBA career, but played for a long time, ended up winning a championship in 2016, and is such a great personality. He's on NBA TV. He's got his podcast with Richard Jefferson, and just a great dude, super funny guy, great person, one of the best bigs that Lute Olson has ever produced. And like you said, Kev, those two guys, Nick Foles, Channing Frye, those are complete layups for the U of A Sports Hall of Fame. And then I know there's, some baseball guys in there as well, a lot of swimmers and divers. And then the triathlon team too, I think is really cool. Just in 2 years as a program, they win a national championship. And not only do they win a natty in their second season, but they dethrone, I think it was like 6-time champion ASU in the process. So you win a national championship and you beat your rival. that's a double whammy for Arizona. So yeah, I'm super pumped for this Hall of Fame class. It's definitely a stacked one for sure.
Yeah, no, it is a stacked class. And you mentioned the idea of like kind of stepping onto the scene and making yourself known to your rivals. I think that was really cool for the triathlon team as well. The only thing I wanted to talk to you about that maybe wasn't Hall of Fame related, maybe we do have a Hall of Famer in this conversation in terms of Arizona, alum and things like that. Noah Fafita will surely be in the Arizona Hall of Fame one day. He was thrown out the first pitch at U of A night at Chase Field. Another thing David and I talked about yesterday. But I saw you tweet about the different layers to this. I kind of wanted your take on, just how cool that was to see so many different Wildcats out there for Chase Field U of A night. And also the national anthem. That was something I did not expect. I saw
Yeah.
Genesis Smith. I saw Trey Smith. I saw Trey Spivey. We got two Smiths and two Treys. The nice little Venn diagram there of attendees is pretty cool. And then you also have Noah Fafita throwing out that first pitch. But I did not know that the national anthem was going to be sang by 4 Arizona Wildcats, and that was pretty cool.
I thought that was awesome. And I think Arizona should have those guys sing the national anthem at some point this season, whether it's the season opener against Hawaii. You could do it against Weber State, right? They gotta do that because it'll be really good not only to see in person, right? Like I don't think that has ever happened before at Arizona Stadium. A player singing the national anthem. We've seen it in Major League Baseball. I forgot who did it in MLB last year, but yeah, having those guys out there in full uniform singing the national anthem, it kind of reminds me of those kids in high school who played football and they were also in the marching band.
Yeah, that little
Like,
Troy Bolton situation.
yeah, but you could always tell like some of the kids who were just not, I guess, important for the game plan, right? It'd be like the third string tackle or something like that. And they're like, hey, we don't need to fill him in on the halftime updates. Have fun out there, playing the trombone or the saxophone or the tuba or the drums, right? I've seen some football players get down on the drums too. But like you see them out in full uniform with the marching band on the field doing their thing. I think it'd be cool to see those 4 football players with the marching band on the field singing the national anthem with the marching band in the shape of the United States of America. I think that'd be a really special thing too. And I've heard that Chuba Ma'ai, he was one of the guys that was in that quartet singing the national anthem. I heard he's got some pipes. I heard it's like a combination of Fergie and Jesus. Like I heard it is
Wow.
big time. By the way, that's a Step Brothers reference for those who don't get the reference.
I got the reference, but also and now I'm imagining, Chuba Ma'ai just absolutely, SpongeBob halftime of the Super Bowl style, just belting it out for the national anthem. And now I need to see it happen.
Yeah, we need to see that happen, man. Chuba's got a voice of an angel. And then Julian Savianea as well, the younger brother of Jonas Savianea, who's going to be on that defensive line this year for Arizona. He grew up in the church, so he always performed on Sundays with his brother, who is a really good keyboard player too. They're really good with instruments. And then Julian and Big Jonah, they're also really good singers too. So it was cool to see the national anthem. And then Noah Fafita throwing out first pitch was also really cool too. And, he's a quarterback, so, he's going to put some mustard on that ball. My guy, Kevin Ginkle, who used to play for the Arizona Wildcats, you got to catch that ball, brother, because now you're making him look bad. And you're making him look so bad that they're not even showing the pitch. They just show Noah Fafita winding back and throwing the ball. They're not going to pan the camera over to the other side because they know better. And it's not Noah's fault. It is not Noah's fault. It's Kevin Ginkle, right? It's not like Noah went full 50 Cent, right, and just threw the ball in the dugout. He got it there, put some mustard on it. Kevin Ginkle, you got to come down with that ball, brother. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then, man, what were the other layers too? Oh, Trey Spivey. Trey Spivey wore his dad's uniform. His dad played second base for the 2001 Arizona Diamondbacks that won the World Series. He's also a Tucson Sidewinders legend as well. It was really cool to see Trey and Genesis rock the number 37 Spivey jersey out there on the field. And what were some other U of A layers to this?
Kenny Dillingham being in attendance in general is another layer to it all.
Yeah, and I like how Kenny Dillingham was like, I'm not going to wear any ASU garb. I'm going to wear the D-backs jersey and just make it look like I was coincidentally there. I'm sure Kenny Dillingham was not there because, it was U of A night. He just wanted to go out to the ballpark and watch the Arizona Diamondbacks play. That's all it was. But
Just
yeah,
went to
U of A.
enjoy a ball game with his son at the in middle of July in Arizona.
Yeah, yeah. Just didn't want to troll or do anything like that. I was waiting for Kenny D to like have the Big 12 championship ring, and he's just sitting there with it like on his face the entire game. So whenever the camera pans over, you just see a fat Big 12 championship ring on his hand. It's so hard to dislike Kenny Dillingham, right? Like Arizona fans, they roll their eyes and they look at it like, oh, of course Kenny D was at the game, but like I kind of like it. I kind of like the troll job.
You need guys like him in a rivalry like this, right? You need a
Yeah.
guy that actually cares about the rivalry, wants to keep it on fire. And if the shoes were on the other feet, like if we were the Big 12 champions and Brent Brennan was at ASU night at Diamondbacks Chase Field, I would kind of love it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, go into enemy territory. Let them know what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I love the trolling. Damon definitely took exception to it. I like you appreciated the troll, but also kind of rolled my eyes at it.
Like you said, if it was your coach, you guys would love it, right? And I tell people this all the time. Imagine if Rob Gronkowski went to ASU instead of Arizona. How would
No.
U of A fans look at Gronk? Knowing his personality and who Gronk is, Arizona fans would hate Rob Gronkowski. But because he went to the U of A, he is the most lovable guy of all time.
He's an animal, but he's our animal kind of vibe. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And so let's get into, we're talking about Rob Gronkowski. And so we're talking about football. Let's just get right back into 2025 Arizona Wildcats football stuff. Me and Damon were talking about this pre-show the other day, and I guess I'll lead into this conversation about the most underrated Arizona Wildcats by saying this. It feels like this is a full roster of sleepers. And by that, I mean players that nationally, outside of Noah Fafita, a lot of pundits aren't expecting much from. They might have some regard or respect for their talent, right? But they might not really expect much out of a Chris Hunter or a Chris Hudson or a Luke Wysong for whatever it's worth, right? Do you feel that same way? Do you feel like this is a lot of players that have something to prove this upcoming year on the Arizona roster?
Yeah, I'm not trying to go full Rodney Dangerfield here and talk about, who gets no respect? Like, honestly, Arizona should not get any respect going into this year, right? They went 4-8. They lost a ton of talent. I shouldn't say they shouldn't get any respect, but it's understandable that no one is really counting them as winners for this upcoming season. Because like I said, they went 4-8, and then, you got to replace Tetairoa McMillan. You got to replace Jonas Avianea. You got to replace Josh Baker. You got to replace all of these guys. Like, let's not diminish what Arizona lost in this offseason. But I think because Brent had a full recruiting cycle at the high school and also the transfer portal level, and he added 55-ish newcomers in this offseason. So essentially half the roster is going to be pretty much new for Arizona. And then the guys who are coming back, they know how the staff operates. They trust and believe in this coaching staff. So on paper, I don't think Arizona is as good as we all, as let's say last year's team, right? Going into last season. But I feel like if Arizona gets into a situation to where injuries start to pile up, they have the depth to where they can kind of keep things going, because they played a lot of players last year that didn't have that experience. And then they got that college experience. I'm talking guys like Jack Luttrell, right, on the back end, even Alexander Deuce at right guard. These were guys who had never played a collegiate snap until last year. And now they're coming back this year, and they're probably going to be backups, or they're going to be starters, but they have a whole year of collegiate experience under their belt. And then when you also add in the guys from the transfer portal, these are not just scrubs. Like, I always think about the whole Rich Rod way of recruiting. Rich Rodriguez always said, if you really want a good college football player, go out and get a good high school football player. You could turn on the tape, you could see the production, you could see the numbers, you could see how they perform. So many people are so caught up in the stars and the potential of this guy, and you have a really good player right in front of you. And the scouting department at Arizona, I mean, they went in and they were pouring over just thousands and thousands of tape of players. And they went from junior college to obviously the transfer portal, looking at the FCS level. And they truly feel like the players that they got in the building are players that have something to prove. And they're also productive from their previous spots, that they feel comfortable that they're going to continue their production at this level, at the highest level, at the Power 4 level. And you talked about like how so many guys have things to prove, right? Like Chris Hudson was a great player coming out of high school, was a 4-star prospect out of St. John Bosco, signed with Oregon. Things didn't pan out there, went to Washington State, had a pretty solid year last year, but hasn't really lived up to the hype that he had coming out of high school. I'm sure Chris Hudson in this offense would love to show out this year. Luke Wysong, right? He killed Arizona in that season opener last year. Had a great career at New Mexico. Now looking to elevate to that Power 4 level and really show what he's made of. And then one guy that I think is really going to turn some heads this year that not a lot of people are talking about is Javen Watley, the transfer from Chattanooga. This guy is super fast. Nunu is going to be one of Arizona's top wide receivers this year. And these guys were, they were being recruited out of the portal, but they chose Arizona because they have an opportunity to get legitimate playing time, and they're really going to come in and make a name for themselves. And they were very productive, like I said, at their previous spots. And people are going to look at the transfer portal and where these guys are coming from. They're like, oh man, okay. You're getting a guy from New Mexico. You're getting a guy from Chattanooga. You're getting a guy from UT Martin. What's the big deal? Well, sometimes players just go under the radar, or they're late bloomers. And Arizona trusts their scouting department, and they feel like they have the right guys in place here that's going to get Arizona to the postseason.
Now, you kind of touched on some names there like Nunu Watley and Luke Wysong. If we talk specifically about the offense, and we can get to the defense a little bit later
Yeah.
here. On offense, who do you think are some of the names that people should pay more attention to? Who do you think it maybe is being a little bit, maybe not underrated, but maybe you feel that way? Just people need to pay more attention to who on Arizona's offensive unit.
Yeah, well, I think, starting up front on the offensive line, I kind of talked about him earlier, was Alexander Deuce. And Deuce is 6'7", 331 pounds. And we've heard from players and coaches that he's Arizona's strongest offensive lineman. And last year he was a Pro Football Focus All-American, solid at that right guard spot. And he played his first collegiate snaps. So another year in the weight room, a year under his belt as a collegiate starter. I think we're going to see Alexander Deuce maybe turn into one of the top guards in the Big 12 when it's all said and done. And the offensive line is very tricky, because the one example that I always think about when it comes to development is Jordan Morgan. And when Jordan Morgan first got to Arizona, I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't think he was going to get to the NFL. I'm like, yeah, he might start a handful of games for Arizona. He's going to be a really good college player. Getting to the NFL, man, that's wishful thinking. I mean, he's got the frame for it, but as an underclassman right now, I don't see it. And then he turned into a first-round pick. So, there's going to be some offensive linemen that are young that are going to develop over the next couple of years, but I think they have the potential to maybe evolve and turn into, a player like a Jordan Morgan. And I think Alexander Deuce at that right guard spot is certainly going to be a fun player to watch on that offensive line. And then, Rhino Tapatotai is a player that, he was a starter last year, got into that left tackle spot, but was injured in the second half of the season. And it was injured all throughout spring ball. And he was just locked in. Like, he was immersed in the offense through install, through team periods. He was in the back, involved in the offense, and has turned into a vocal leader for Arizona. And I think there's something to be said about, when you're at, when you're going into your second year as a starter and you're already picked as a member or like a team captain, like you're representing Arizona at Big 12 Media Days. I think that says a lot about Rhino, the kind of player that he is, and the kind of person that he is too. And then getting away from the offensive line, I think this is going to be a big year for the tight ends. And people want to talk about Kean Burnett coming back from Kansas, but I think this is going to be a big year for Tyler Powell. And and
Mm.
and Tyler Powell is 6'7", 250 pounds. Like, he is a big body, and he's got a good lower half, which is going to be really good for blocking. There's so much uncertainty with this offensive line. Having a good blocker like Tyler Powell is really going to show up for Arizona. And then he's also a really good route runner too. And so Tyler Powell, he was a part of that 2022 recruiting class. People forget about that. Like, people talk about Noah and T-Mac and all these other players, and then there's just those few that were kind of near the bottom, and those players are now ascending into more prominent roles. And Tyler Powell in the spring turned into that guy. I mean, before Kean Burnett came back to Arizona, I slotted Tyler Powell as Arizona's starting tight end. I think that guy will be Kean Burnett, but I think Tyler Powell as a complimentary tight end is going to be pretty fun to watch.
See, that's
All
what I'm
right, so
talking about. That's what I'm talking about right there. That's why you talk to Justin Spears, because people want to talk about Kean Burnett and they want to kind of poo-poo Sam Olsen, but then they kind of leave Tyler Powell out of the conversation completely, and that is why we bring Justin Spears on today. And I also love that you brought up our guy Rhino, because when we spoke to him at Big 12 Media Day, I loved how he was talking about the offensive mentality changing from whatever it was last year, right? Whatever the word is for it last year, to like focused and stylized violence. I forget the exact word that he said, but I think he said choose violence, right?
yeah,
And I'm excited for that offensive line. You mentioned Alexander Deuce. He is a huge man. And I feel like that offensive line, that you've mentioned it in your work for the Arizona Daily Star, but I also feel like that offensive line, despite their amount of new faces, the coaching seems improved and the focus seems there as well. I want to talk more about this offensive unit. We're going to talk a little bit about the defensive unit with Justin Spears on the AZ Wildcats podcast after this quick break. Don't go anywhere. Leave a like. Folks, you know what time it is. It's ad time. And you know what time that is. That means we're talking about Brandon Bills. We're talking about Brandon Bills, the cleanest, most stylish, most comfortable headwear. I was going to say west of the Mississippi, but you can get it east of the Mississippi as well if that's your get down. If you're looking for some gear to elevate your brand or just elevate your style, representing your team if you're an Arizona Wildcat fan as well, Branded Bills is the way to go. If you're an Arizona Wildcat fan and you're down in Tucson, check out that campus store as well. They have an exclusive shelf there of Branded Bills that you can really only find there. Very hard to find them elsewhere. They are beautiful designs. You got a territorial cup hat, some softball, some baseball, some basketball love from Branded Bills. Very good company. They love partnering with Arizona schools, specifically U of A. They also do some charity work with ASU because, you just gotta, you can't bring cookies to school and just give it to one kid. You gotta give it to everybody. So they do a partnership with ASU as well. But they also partner with the Phoenix Suns. They're a local company created in Mesa, Arizona. So head to brandedbills.com, use code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order of the most stylish way to elevate your brand out there. And now I also want to talk to everybody out there about Empire Today. You know the jingle. I don't think that number's in use anymore, but you know the jingle. Empire Today is the best flooring out there. We have it here in the GOAT Dan Taurasi studio. And it's some sturdy flooring. We are savages here in the PHNX office, and I don't know how this floor has lasted as long as it has, and it will probably last through the move because Empire Today is just that damn good. And you've all been to these big box stores where their goal is to just get you in an endless aisle and then to the checkout line. And that's not what Empire Today is about at all. They want to make sure that you love the flooring the way it is in your home. So why is Empire Today the best choice? Because they have that floor. It's the right flooring for you and the right colors for your space. So see how it looks in your house with their virtual visualizer. So schedule a free in-home estimate today because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive a $350 discount when using code PHNX. That is correct. $350 off using code PHNX. Visit EmpireToday/PHNX for full details. And we're back with Justin Spears talking underrated Arizona football Wildcats. We talked a little bit about the offensive line. You gave the folks the Tyler Powell, tip, I will say there, to pay attention to Tyler Powell. Any other Wildcats on offense that people really need to key in on so they're super locked in on 2025?
Yeah, wide receivers is so hard. And I know you asked for 5 players, but Man, it's so hard to figure out that trio. Like if I were to put my money on a starting trio for that Hawaii game, I'd probably pick Trey Spivey at that X spot where T-Mac was playing, Chris Hunter, who emerged in the second half of last season. I mean, those 2 touchdown catches against TCU, I think that
Yeah.
is a flash of what's to come this season for him. And then Chris Hudson, the transfer from Washington State. So
Could
I'd probably
could
bank on
I
those
cut
guys.
you off real quick
Sure.
to talk a little bit more about Chris Hunter? Because I feel like it's almost been like an assumed, a known commodity in a way. Like, okay, we know he's coming back. Like, I don't think people are talking enough about his potential. I'm not saying he's currently the best receiver on the roster or that like he's going to blow the other guys out of the water. But we have seen, like you alluded to, the 2 catches against TCU, I believe it was, and like
Yeah.
he's shown flashes of being a top end receiver for the Arizona Wildcats squad. Why do you think people aren't really talking about, like, I feel like more people want to talk about Chris Hudson. They want to talk about Luke Weissong. And I understand it. I totally get it. The
Yeah.
Nunu Watleys, their speed, the Luke Weissongs, his game last year against Arizona, the flashes he's shown. But I feel like people aren't talking about Chris Hunter enough. When we spoke to him at that spring showcase, he feels motivated. He feels ready to really assume a leadership role for this receiver room. And I feel like, I know you can, but I feel like it's hard to do that if you're not one of those top 3 guys. So I
Yeah.
feel like people got to start talking about Chris Hunter more. Do you agree with that?
Well, I feel like I do agree that people need to start talking about Chris Hunter more, and he's the leader of this group. Bobby Wade has given him that leadership title, but Bobby Wade has also told him, "You better not stop working. Like you better keep working because we have a lot of great players that are right here that's capable of taking your job." And I think it's because he's just kind of buried into the offseason. Like think about it. They lost T-Mac, right? They lost Tetero McMillan, the best receiver in program history. So now everyone's like, okay, how are you going about replacing T-Mac? Oh, let's look at the guys that you added in the transfer portal. Okay, Trey Spivey, Chris Hudson, all these slot guys. Okay. And oh, they're fast. Okay, maybe they might have something. And then, oh, by the way, oh, Chris Hunter. Yeah, I forgot about him. I think also another thing too about Chris Hunter was, when he started to emerge, Arizona was already just getting smoked week in and week out. Like, yeah, he
Yeah.
was making plays against UCF, but Arizona also lost by 6 touchdowns to
Yeah.
UCF. So, yeah, lose a TCU right on the road. Like, yeah, man, great touchdown catches, but you guys also lost by 3 or 4 touchdowns. So I think it was the fact that he was making big time plays in games that Arizona was already getting killed, and then he didn't emerge until the second half of the season. People forget he took Montana Lemonius' Craig's job. Like the MLC was the starter at receiver, and then Chris Hunter, he was just too good to keep on the sidelines, so they put him in over MLC. So I think Chris Hunter, now that he's in a leadership role, maybe he kind of views himself as wide receiver 1, right? I mean, the wide receiver 1 doesn't always have to be at that X spot. It could be where Chris Hunter is. So I think that Chris Hunter is going to have a pretty solid year this year. And I think that the receivers are going to be pretty solid too, only if the offensive line can protect Noah Fafita and Noah Fafita can get the ball out of his hands and the offense can stay on schedule. Seth Dagey claims this offense can have 3 receivers with over 1,000 yards. It's pretty crazy to think, but we'll find out.
Yeah, it's a bold strategy, Cotton, and we'll see how it works out for him. But one more player on the offensive side of things, and I
Yeah,
know we'll keep it more brief on defense because I know you got to get out of here in not too long of a time. But I wanted to ask you about Ismail Mahdi and the running backs,
sure.
specifically about Ismail Mahdi. Do you think his elevation into the Big 12? What kind of expectations do you have for him stepping up into a bigger conference against tougher opponents?
He's one of my favorite stories for this year's Arizona team because he comes from humble beginnings. This was a guy whose family fled literally a war zone. His family is from Africa and they went to a Kenyan refugee camp, and then they ended up packing up their things and emigrating to Texas to start their new life and escape the harsh conditions out there in Sudan. And he always valued hard work and always had a great work ethic. And I think his dad like worked at a mechanic shop or something like that. But his family, they value hard work. And Ismail Mahdi, one day at school, growing up in Texas, his friends were like, "Man, you're really fast. You should play football." And he started playing football, and he had people that would take him to practice, and then he became this really good running back. But like a lot of people in Texas, sometimes even though you're really good, you kind of fly under the radar because yes, you are really good, but man, so is the rest of the state. There are so many great players in the state of Texas. So he went under the radar, but then went to Texas State, and for the Bobcats was a great running back, was a great returner. I think he had well over 2,000 all-purpose yards while he was at Texas State. So, I mean, the guy can do it all. Very fast, and he's going to be very effective in the passing game too. And him and Kedrick Reesano, those are probably going to be your starting two running backs. And then, they're going to mix in Quincy Craig and some of these other freshmen that they were able to add in the 2025 class. But Ismail Mahdi has the breakaway speed, and when he can get to that fifth gear, there's very few people in college football that can catch him. So look out for this guy when he gets out in open space, he's going to make some big time plays.
So you do feel like his skills will fully translate and maybe even elevate into the Big 12?
I think it's going to elevate Arizona's offense. And I think when it's all said and done, people are going to know who Ismail Mahdi is.
I love to hear it. You saw last year with JCM not even being able to play, but still being able to, in the Senior Bowl, I believe, whatever. They have two of those Senior Bowls. I forget which one it was.
The East West Shrine Bowl.
Yeah, the Shrine Bowl. He was able to really showcase his skills and put his name into the pro ranks in that kind of conversation. Do you feel like Ismail Mahdi, with a strong year, can vault himself into those same kind of conversations?
I think so. And, that's a really good comparison with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. A guy who's playing Division I football, but wasn't at the Power 4 level. And now that he's had those years under his belt, you can enter the transfer portal and explore your options. And for Ismail Mahdi, he's a really good running back. I mean, he was listed as an All-American after the 2023 season. And so with him going into his final year of playing college football, playing in the NFL is not a given. And with rev share, with really the final offseason of NIL, for guys like Ismail Mahdi, this is their opportunity to cash in on their talents and what they bring. And then they can also get more exposure, right? Because you all want to get to the NFL. You want to play at that next level. And you're going to have a lot more eyeballs on you when you're playing at the University of Arizona than, say, a program like Texas State. And for Arizona, when they were looking at adding players in the transfer portal, you have to think about it I talk about this ad nauseum. In the worlds of the haves and the have-nots, I hate to break it to you, Arizona fans, but in the college football world, college football, not college basketball, in college football, Arizona is more of the have-nots. So when you are recruiting players, you got to look at programs like Texas State. You have to look at, some of these smaller schools that are producing great players, because Arizona can take those players. It's like a pyramid effect, right? The best players from Arizona, if they're looking for more money and better financial opportunity, they're probably going to go somewhere else. Look at Wendell Moy, transferring to Tennessee. He's trying to take care of his family. He's the provider of the family. I don't blame him for going to Tennessee, but he's a really good player. And a program like Tennessee can pay a player like Wendell Moy and give them an offer that Arizona can't pay. And then Arizona, they're giving Ismail Mahdi an offer that Texas State simply cannot pay. But it's a big win to get a guy like Ismail Mahdi, because he was also looking at Arkansas. It wasn't like Ismail Mahdi, went to Arizona because the Wildcats were the only school that were showing him some love. There were others that were in the mix too, and he felt like Arizona was the right choice.
Yeah, no, I'm extremely excited for Ismail Mahdi's upcoming year. I asked you that question mostly because I feel like his skills do translate, and I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything in evaluating what he can do, because he really is an elite separator, right? Like his ability to get into the next level of the defense and utilize his speed to just burst past guys at Texas State like he was. I'm excited to see how he can help Noah Fafita have a more balanced offense in 2025. And then before we do get you out of here, Spears, let's talk a little bit of defense in terms of some of the more underrated guys on the defensive side of the ball. It goes without saying that Genesis Smith has been underrated. Damon and I have talked to the point that we're blue in the face about how Genesis Smith is not being mentioned enough in the preseason, previews of Arizona football from a national standpoint. But who are some of the other names that you really think people should key in on defense?
Yeah, I'm going to go away from the defensive backs. Outside, okay, one defensive back that's not the usual suspects. Javion Cole, the transfer from San Jose State / Texas. Man, people look at what he did at Texas and are like, I mean, he didn't really do anything at Texas. Why should we be excited about this guy? Well, just because he ain't Texas good, that does not mean he's not Arizona good. And Arizona's had a ton of players like that. Bill Norton, being one of them. He couldn't get on the field because Georgia just kept bringing in NFL defensive linemen. And then he comes to Arizona and becomes Arizona's starting nose tackle and becomes a very valuable player up front and is now with the LA Rams for their training camp. I look at, situations like that, and I think Javion Cole is going to be one of Arizona's starting defensive backs, or at least a guy that's going to be playing a lot of snaps this season for Arizona. And he's very familiar with the staff. Chip Viney recruited him to San Jose State, so there's some familiarity there. And now that he's in a new situation with the staff that he's very familiar with, I think that you're going to see some big stuff out of Javion Cole. So look out for him. And then going down to the linebackers, I think Tay Brown is going to end up leading the Wildcats in tackles this season. And, Tay Brown was a player that kind of pedestrian last year. Like there like one impactful play that you can remember Tay Brown making? Like he was just kind of just out there on the field, right? Like sometimes you just didn't even realize that Tay Brown was out there playing for Arizona. But I think now that he's had a full year as a starter and is going to be that leader of the defense right there in the middle, I look for him to maybe have maybe not a breakout season, but definitely a season that's more productive than last season. And then I think at sticking with the linebacker spots, those guys are going to be very interesting to watch because Danny Gonzalez is implementing a 3-3-5 defense. So you're going to have more of a stand-up edge rusher involved in that defense. And those two guys are going to be Chase Kennedy, who started at defensive end last year after transferring from Utah, and then Riley Wilson, the transfer from Montana, who started his career at Hawaii. And Riley Wilson, had, I think, like 24 sacks or something like that at Montana and became an what's their conference? Oh, Big Sky. Big Sky conference selection. And when he entered the portal, people were talking about him as one of the top players to leave FCS and enter the transfer portal. And Arizona, they were like, we need to keep Riley Wilson. Now that we've got him here, we want to make sure that this secret ain't out because he's a really good player. And so they kept Riley Wilson. And I think that Riley Wilson, you're going to know his name by the end of the season because what he did at Montana, what he showed in the latter part of the spring, I think he's going to be a really, really good football player for Arizona. And then going down to the defensive line, I think Trey Smith with Joe Salavea's teachings is going to turn more of those quarterback pressures into sacks. But I think this is going to be a really big year for the interior guys. And I think Tia Savea working with Joe Salavea, but especially Deshaun McKnight, he's the guy that I wanted to talk about. Big number 0, the first ever defensive lineman to wear number 0 at Arizona. He started off wearing number 99. He went from the end of the roster to the very beginning. But Deshaun McKnight, he is very athletic for his size. He's a 300-pounder. But when he was being recruited out of high school in South Carolina, and I don't know when's the last time Arizona had a South Carolina native on its roster, but when he was being recruited out of high school, he was an outside linebacker and had the versatility, could drop back in coverage. And then he has only put on weight since then, but has never lost that athleticism. So he's still light on his feet, very athletic. I've seen him drop back into pass coverage and defending some passes. He is that kind of player. And he can also get into the backfield. I saw him make a ton of plays in the backfield, getting some TFLs, tackling running backs in the backfield, getting to the quarterback. I think Deshaun McKnight is going to be one of Arizona's top defensive linemen this year.
That was an incredible breakdown of the most underrated Arizona Wildcats on the 2025 roster. Thank you to Justin Spears for that. I know you're a busy man, so you do got to get out of here in a somewhat timely manner. But before you do get out of here, one last silly one for you.
Let's do it.
Do you have any upcoming experiences or food that you're excited to partake in? We're entering the weekend, so do you have any plans food-wise or just life-wise that you're excited about?
Oh, man. Well, this is probably the last opportunity I get to play golf. This is usually the time of year once training camp starts. I'm like, man, it's sad. I hate to do it, but I gotta put the golf clubs away. It is so sad. So I'm, probably see if I can sneak in a round of golf before we start training camp. And then, man, food-wise, I do need to try Solid Grinds, that Hawaiian place that
good.
Jonas Avinea was promoting last year.
Good.
He got an NIL deal from them. You've had it before?
I have had, and I can confirm it's pretty good. I can't go too far because I have an agreement with our ad man right now that I cannot give out any free ads due to an agreement that me and him made. So I will just say I have had, and I can agree with your statement that it is.
I can agree with
good.
You. Yes, it's awesome, man. So I'm gonna try that, and then I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm having for dinner later on. So I'll text you. I'll let you know.
But that is Justin Spears. Spears, where can they find you doing all your great work and eating all your great food that you post sometimes?
Well, you said you're having pork chops. I'm going to be over at your house.
I just got a new grill, so come over.
Shoot, I love pork chops, especially, listen, I'm a German, and us Germans, we put some applesauce on our pork chops. Have you ever had that before?
No.
Yeah.
I can see it being good. I can mentally get there. I can see it being good.
Yeah, get a little bowl of applesauce and just have it on the side and just kind of cut up your pork chop, dip your pork chop into that applesauce. Ooh, it is so good. So good.
I'm more of a high quality mustard dip with the pork kind of guy.
That too.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I'm not eating pork chops with applesauce, I'm covering Arizona football. You can check out my work on Tucson.com. I tweet every single day, so you can also check me out on the social media app formerly known as Twitter at Justin E Sports. And then check out the Spears and Ali podcast. We're talking a lot of Arizona football on the radio show. So Apple, Spotify, YouTube, do your thing there.
I'll have to get Ali on this pod at some point to really complete the multiverse of Arizona's media. But Spears, it was great having you on, and I will at some point hit you up very soon. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too, man. Enjoy the pork chops.
That I will do. And we're going to talk a little bit about Arizona basketball. We got Carter Bryant cooking himself. He's cooking, maybe not pork chops, but he was cooking today in the Bear Down kitchen. And we're going to talk about that. Matthias Krivas and Tobe Awaka had a press conference. We're going to talk more about that on the other side of this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't you go anywhere. And I want to talk to you guys about Monarch Money. I am a Monarch Money user myself. It helps me track my finances, my coming, my going, all that kind of stuff. My income, my expenses. See, I don't know a lot about money, and that's why I need Monarch Money to give me the money-saving tools that I don't currently have. And that's why it is the Wall Street Journal's best budgeting app of 2025, the top recommended personal finance app by users. That's us. The users at home, over 30,000 5-star reviews, because financial stress is one of the top reasons people are stressing these days in America, but probably around the world. I live in America, so probably around the world as well. So try to alleviate that by tracking shared and individual accounts, set goals, keep money check-ins drama-free, because with Monarch Money that you're tracking all your finances. Get control of your overall finances with Monarch Money. Use code PHNX at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year of Monarch Money. That's 50% off your first year of Monarch Money using code PHNX. We're just trying to save you guys money on saving your money. That's code PHNX at monarchmoney.com. And folks, I also wanted to talk to you all about our friends over at Game Time. And that's right. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of PHNX. And I have a deal for you guys. I know the Diamondbacks are bad. I know that they are. I know the Arizona Wildcats football squad does not take the field for a couple more weeks there But you can still use Game Time for all your, comedy show tickets, live event tickets, and it's the best way to shop for tickets. It's the only way I shop for tickets, really. You can see the view from your seat right there in the app. You don't have to worry about, am I going to be blocked by a pole in this old baseball stadium? Or am I going to be able to see with the person next to me? Are they going to be in the aisle too? Am I going to have the aisle? You can literally view your view from the seat in the customize your spot feature of their app. Also, they have last minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHNX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code PHNX for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Well, I guess I'll ask myself. Well, Gerald, can you ask me what time it is? Game time. Thank you, Gerald. Yeah, that was the last ad break of the show. We are ad free the rest of the way here, ladies and gentlemen. And I wanted to wrap it up with some Arizona basketball quick hitters. Carter Bryant was back on campus today, folks. Back in Tucson at Bear Down Kitchen. And this is what he was getting up to.
Here, I got a new hire in this thing.
I'm here, come on. I'll get a bacon, egg, and cheese. Bacon, egg, and cheese?
Wait, how Jersey Mike people saying it?
Just serving up bacon, eggs, and cheeses to Jaden Bradley and some of the other athletes there on campus at the Bear Down Kitchen. It's good to see Carter Bryant back on campus so soon after he was drafted by the San Antonio Spurs. And it's pretty cool to see that because you have guys like Carter Bryant, you have guys like Tedderone McMillan, who they get drafted and they could go anywhere on planet Earth. They could jet to Ibiza. They could go to Turks and Caicos. They could be at the training facility in their new team, checking out all the new toys, right? But they want to come back to Tucson and hang out with their old teammates. They want to come back to Tucson and live the life again. Like, I feel like it really is. It shows that the programs that Arizona has cause connection with the guys that they send to the pros. And those guys really want to represent this university. Carter Bryant, I feel like, is going to be reposting stuff about Arizona until the day the social media is cooked, right? I feel like he's going to always rep this university in the ways that he can. And I loved seeing him cooking in the Bear Down Kitchen. I just thought that was a really, really funny thing to see this morning. And also, I saw this the other day on Instagram, and it's not like breaking news. They're literally on the same roster. But Caleb Love posted this to his Instagram. It was a photo of him and Yang Han Sun, and I felt this is the future, folks. Caleb Love and our guy YH, it's the future. We already know that Caleb Love, they brought Damian Lillard back to mentor Caleb Love to be the franchise point guard. We all know this. I don't have to explain this to you guys. This is the storyline that we've all been following. This is the future of the NBA. I was talking to producer Ayrton this morning about how, has the league ever been in better hands? Look at this photo. Has the league ever been in better hands? You got Caleb Love and Yang Han Sen. I don't think that the league could be in a better place talent-wise, spiritually, emotionally. It's a great day to be an Arizona Wildcat. And I bring that up again to mention that Caleb Love's another guy that's always going to be repping this university. He could have, I was going to say he could have gone anywhere, but he tried to go to Michigan and that didn't really work out. But he could have gone a lot of places after UNC, and he chose Arizona, and Arizona chose him, and now he is in the pros. And it's the program. Arizona gets you to where you want to be if you want to be in the pros, if you work hard at it. And then we do have some quick press conference news and notes to hit. Matthias Krivas and Tobe Awaka were asked today a variety of things, mostly about the Big 12, some things about Krivas' injury. Matthias Krivas, folks, not the most loquacious guy. Doesn't have a lot of things to say. And that's not because he's not smart. It's not because he doesn't know how to put the words together. It just doesn't feel like, he's operating in his right language pocket, I'll say. Because there were some answers. There were some questions there where it's like, hey, did you feel healthy going into last year? Yes. When did you re-injure it? Was it during practice or yes? Do you feel healthy this year? Yes. It was a lot of very short to the point answers, but this is some of the stuff I took away from that. Here's Matthias Krivas and Tobe Awaka on the physicality in the Big 12, but just playing in the Big 12 in general.
Obviously, it was our first season in Big 12, so
The main thing I saw was that physicality is probably the most important thing in Big 12, and that I need to work on it in the summer and to expect it this upcoming season.
It was definitely interesting. I would say there's a bit of a different style of play, but coming from the SEC is pretty physical as well. So I definitely felt like playing there and then coming over to the Big 12, it definitely helped prepare me, for the whole season.
Now, I love hearing specifically Krivas talk about the physicality in the Big 12, mostly because I am not sure. I shouldn't say that, but I was going to say I'm not really sure about that, his level of physicality in the conference and how it fits, but I'm more concerned about his physicality and his athleticism meshing in the Big 12, right? If he comes out kind of plotting like he did last year, and he did say he was fully healthy entering last season, so you must believe that is really just how he plays, and that is the speed at which he plays. If he is that huge, big, bruising center that we think he could be, then I think he can hang in the Big 12. But if he wants to, be a little bit more tentative out there, that's not going to fly in the conference. Even though he does have the size to hang in the Big 12, it is about the mentality, and especially coming off of the injury, I was interested to see his take on that. And also, generally, his mentality on 2024, Matías Krivas was set to be a huge centerpiece of the 2024 roster, both offensively and defensively, right? Losing that season for him, he said it did play a huge, toll on him mentally, but also this is his mentality just sitting that season out. What was he doing during that time off?
Just learn that nothing is granted, like nothing is given to you, and just I just learned to become a student of the game and just don't feel bad for myself, but just try to take every practice that I used to watch or every game and learn something new from it.
Yeah, and this is what me and Damon were talking about a lot this year in relation to Matías Krivas, was if he comes into this year having learned a lot about the X's and O's last year working with Tommy Lloyd, hopefully in the coaching staff closely behind the scenes during his time off due to injury, he could really come back with an added level to his game. The mental level could be leveled up even higher than it was if he had played, because you spend all that time just studying what your role is, how you could be better when you do come back, what guys are doing right out there that you maybe could do better. I feel like that is a huge plus, that Matías Krivas was really taking that time to learn the game, learn his role, and just become more of a student of the game of basketball. And then before we get out of here, I wanted to play these last couple clips of Tobe Awaka talking about his experience in 2024 and coming back to Arizona in 2025.
Overall, it was a great learning experience. It was a great experience overall. I got to play with a group of guys that I really liked, and I felt like, from the aspect of the coaching staff, I truly learned a lot. I think that as a player, I really sort of grew, learning how to play the game, how to make certain reads. I was sort of put in more uncomfortable situations in practice, in games, and I think I became a better player because of it. Nah, not really. I pretty much had my eyes set on coming back. I felt like I have a coach that trusted me, and Coach Lloyd. He has a great supporting staff as well. So honestly, in my mind, there was no better place to be.
And we knew this. That's not breaking news. Tobe Awaka was never going anywhere. I feel like the first answer kind of illustrates why he never had any doubts in coming back to the University of Arizona. This is a place and a coaching staff that really helped him sharpen his tools and refine his skills as one of the best and most tenacious rebounders in all of college basketball. And there was never a doubt that Tobe Awaka was not going to come back to this roster next year. We do have more from that press conference. I'll play some of those clips on tomorrow's show, and we'll break it down, and we're going to talk more about expectations for 2025 Arizona men's basketball win totals, points totals, assist totals, all that good stuff tomorrow on a TGIF Friday version of the AZ Wildcats podcast. I appreciate each and every one of you guys for tuning in with me today, talking with Justin Spears about a little bit of Arizona football, some of the more underrated players that you need to be keeping an eye on entering this preseason time. And that is it for me today, folks. I've been your host, Kevin Thomas, on the AZ Wildcats podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at KevoPosts. That's KEVPOSTS on the Twitter machine. You can also follow our main account at PHNX_Wildcats on Twitter as well. That's our hub for all of our Arizona Wildcats coverage here at PHNX. And until tomorrow, folks, it has been a great time. Don't forget to drink your water. And as always, bear down and go Cats. Eat a pork chop with some applesauce today.
We all silly like the mayor.